Welcome, everyone. It's episode 13 of the Rams Revealed podcast. I'm Dylan Pescatore along with Austin Platt. Our guest today is NC boys hockey coach Clark Jones. Coach Jones, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here, guys.
All right, so lucky episode 13. We have a wonderful coach on. Our first question of the day for Coach is last year. We're going to go into last year before we go into this year when the boys won the FCIAC Championship before COVID hit. It's going to be, was there a certain moment or a certain game that made you think that it was really a championship team during the season that really just, gave you that feeling that this team could go all the way?
It wasn't one game. It was, and I've said this a bunch, it was after that 10-2 loss to Darien. Something changed in the locker room, and it became it was like they just went through something really, really tough, and they bonded together. And we almost didn't have to go in the locker room. I mean, they were so dialed in after that. And I think to a certain degree, a lot of the younger guys, had to gain some experience, and Bo having to go through that, and Alex Satiros and Shane Mettler, and they'd played their whole life in front of their parents, and all of a sudden you're in a packed arena, and you've got to learn how to kind of handle that. And so I think it was then the stretch we went on after that. And I would say probably if I had to pick a game, it would be up at Xavier. When we got a last minute goal, and guys just were finding ways to win, and that's kind of when it's coming together.
Of course, that Darien game was, many people said it was kind of your biggest game of the year, and you look at your schedule, it wasn't as strong as it is this year, and without, you didn't play a Prep or a Notre Dame West Haven, and people said after 10-2 that was kind of the end, but you guys came back very well. Following up on that 10-2 game, what made you change the lines in the middle of the season? Of course, moving Shane and Justin Weefelt around and changing up the lines. Did anyone help you making that decision, or was that all on your own?
No, that was knowing the guys really well, and Justin brought, and I'd known that Shane had played D before, and I thought he looked far more comfortable a few years back when he was a defenseman and had the ice in front of him, and we also needed help along the wing to get pucks out and get in really hard on pucks in the offensive zone. And Justin had such a good motor and was willing to take hits to make plays and dish it out as well. And, and get to the front of the net. And when he was on D, he didn't have that opportunity. And you saw less than a minute into the FCIAC Championship game, who's right in front of the net. And it's Shane Mettler shooting from the point, and Weefelt was right in front of the net. And he liked, he just loved going to the dirty areas. And, so I think that was more just, we need help here. Shane's probably more comfortable there. And then lines are, in hockey, lines are, you can have a line that goes on a hot streak for a while, and the chemistry's there. And sometimes you got to shake it up and see who, we, like recently we put Griffin Dean on the right wing. He's been on the left wing as a righty. And you can just tell he looks more comfortable now on that side. And those are just adjustments you make as you go.
Must have put a big smile on your face when you saw that work out in the FCIAC Championship game. So our last question about last year is, you had all these young players, Sortiros, Mettler. What's one or a few players that really surprised you as you went along during the season, just adapting to the high school, hockey mentality, or just, showing up when really you didn't know they had it in them?
Well, I think a lot of guys did. I mean, Nick McDanis stands out in terms of, Nick wasn't, he's gotten a lot bigger now, but he wasn't all that big. He wasn't all that fast, but he played big. And you just never know until they get into that moment. And he's, 15 years old playing against some big 18-year-old kids, and how are they going to handle it? And he's another guy, man, did he get to the front of the net, and He did it in the FCIAC Championship game. He did it in the semifinal game against Ridgefield. He just got to the front of the net and made plays. But a big part of that is he had a really good mind for the game, and he played like a big boy. And but we didn't know what that was going to look like going into the season. We knew he had a great mind for the game, and he's gone on to Taft and had a great year. He scored the overtime game winner against Brunswick less than a week ago. So he was probably a major piece. Satiros was again on the back end. He was tough to play against. And man, I don't know if you guys remember in the Ridgefield game, he took a shot to his midsection where you don't want to take a shot, and he had to leave the game, and he couldn't even breathe on the bench, and then came back in, and I think it was the Pablo video, and you see him taking another one-timer right to his chest, and it was like, Bennett on would do the same thing. I think Bennett on with diving in front of every puck you can get. And that's when you kind of know, all right, these guys they're willing to do whatever it takes for each other, which that was pretty cool to watch.
So, of course, with the loss of Justin, Bennett, and Eric, your big three seniors on defense, and, of course, Alex Sotiris as well, are you missing that big body and the physical presence this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain degree, the guys that moved on all did something really well, and now you've got a group of guys that, I mean, not only with the schedule change where there's no real kind of like time to ease your way into the role that you got to play, and normally we'd have a lot of time to work through that. We'd have kind of some lighter games where you can work through stuff, and they're right in the fire, and that's the biggest thing that we're working on right now and trying to communicate is it's not just on the defenseman either. It's playing as a collective unit defensively. If you watch the Darien game, I took a picture of Teddy Dyer's goal, which was the fourth goal. And I was watching it back and took the picture. He's all by himself in front of the net, right? And that's not just on the D. I mean, that's collectively protecting the front of your net as a 5-man unit. So, that's right now, that's our biggest thing. And I think we're at a point right now where there's no time to really figure that out anymore. Like we're here now, and they know it, but it's a 5-man unit that has to do it together.
Yeah, that Darien game when you guys dropped that one 4-1, a tough game to, take in, and now you're facing the number 1 seed in the FCIAC tonight, Fairfield Ludlow /Ward, the co-op team. So our next question is, as you go into playoffs after tonight's last game of the regular season, it'll be, what are some players that you're looking to step up? We've seen some of your, high scorers from last year not have that chance to replicate. Griffin Dinas had somewhat of a down year. Carter Ellis, some of the seniors, and so what are some of the players that you're just looking to really get hot as playoffs come around?
Well, we need all of them. I mean, I think it's all kind of in the same theme of, Griffin's at his best when he is playing physical and he's tough and he's simplifying his game. But that's all of our guys too. And it's just getting back to playing a very simple brand of hockey. And if you look at it, I mean, look, we've lost a fair amount of 1-goal games. Mm-hmm. But if you even go to the Notre Dame West Haven game, our first period was just a complete lack of commitment to playing simple, tough hockey. And so it's across the board. We need guys to protect the front of your net at all costs and get to the front of their net. And those 2 areas, if you can win those 2 areas, you're going to win the game. And And we're playing a team tonight that's going to compete, and they've got some kids that can play, and Carl does a great job. And I said before the season, a lot of people weren't talking about Fairfield, and I was like, you have to have Fairfield in the conversation. They got guys that can bury the puck, and they're tough, and they'll take hits to make plays. And so for us, the biggest thing is collectively simplifying the game and winning the front of their net and winning the front of our net.
And speaking in front of your net, we'll go to the goalie now, Bo Johnson. What have you seen this year from Bo? You know, of course, he hasn't had much success this year after a fantastic freshman campaign. And are you confident that he will be the number one going into playoffs?
Oh, I don't know. You know, they're by the way, they're both phenomenal goalies, and they've been tremendous attitudes. They work hard. Any game we've been in, it's been the issue we just talked about. And you know, Mason Pickering comes in against St. Joe's. The first shot he gets, do you remember the first shot he got as a high school goalie?
Yeah, the breakaway from Johnny Carrasco.
It was a breakaway. Yeah. And so, you know, it's if we've made mistakes, they've been pretty large ones. And then we'll go on stretches where guys are doing things tremendously well. But especially in this type of year, you just can't make those catastrophic mistakes. So I you know, both goalies are competing every day, and we're sorting through all of that.
Of course, a big game against Fairfield Ludlow tonight, and then playoff seedings will be decided this weekend. Our last question about, you know, this year would be, what's your biggest surprise player for you? I mean, we've seen, you know, Jack Eccleston step up, and, you know, what have you seen from your team? Maybe pick out one to forward or one defenseman that, you know, really has surprised you as you came into this year.
I mean, Jack has been outstanding, and his success, especially early on, was, you know, he plays hard, and he worked really hard in the off season, and he got quicker, he got stronger, and he asked me before the end of the season, and he did everything the right way last year, what he needs to do to be able to be an impact player. And he did all of it. Like he worked out, he got stronger, he got quicker. And then on the D end, I mean, Cam Wheatfeld has been, he's been awesome. And I mean, for a guy his size, how physical he is, we need more of that.
Yeah, of course, Wheatfeld looking like he's got shades of his older brother, who's, of course, now playing lacrosse at Michigan. We'll go now to our quick hits, our miscellaneous, and we ask some of these questions to some of your players. First one, what's your favorite rink to coach in other than Darien Icehouse?
Oh, man. I'd say if we ever had a game there, Terry Connors. I love Terry Connors. So I'd say Wesleyan as well. They've got a great setup, like locker room setup, and you know. But I mean, to me, Terry Connors is just such an awesome venue.
Wesleyan is what Bowden and Gavin said when we asked them that question.
Yeah. Well, the setup there is, I mean, like, great locker rooms. It's just a great setup.
Sadly, you didn't get to go up there this year. Hopefully next year everything will get back to normal. Maybe get back up there. Our next question is, we know you coach at the youth level, and you're, you know, building up these players as they come from a younger age into the high school level. You know, what is something that you really take and really drill into these kids' heads as they're young and coming through the winter club and, you know, through some younger hockey? And how do you feel as a youth coach, just, you know, teaching that? Do you enjoy it? Do you really just, you know, take it for what it is? Because you're not just a high school hockey coach, you're really coaching them from the youth.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, the setup is, and I grew up in New Hampshire. I didn't grow up around here, but I made a move from the finance world, gosh, almost five years ago, to do this for a living. And, you know, you give away the upside in the finance world that you'd get to try to create an environment of accountability at a young age. And so that kids have a process when they move on to high school or prep school, wherever they go, where you show up early, you get prepared, And there's a process around that you have to learn at a young age. And so we try to really preach that. My wife runs the power skating and figure skating here. And it's the same thing. So we try to get a hold of them from a really young age, you know, and to teach them about that process. And ultimately, the game of hockey is about, and football and basketball, but it's about doing it for each other. And the second you see a team start really doing it for each other, it's a pretty cool moment. And if you can get young kids to learn that early on, everybody's better off.
For sure. And last question, a bit more personal here. Who do you think the funniest guy in the locker room is? Of course, you've had some games where you've lost by some big margins the last couple of years. Who's that guy that's going to crack a joke in a low moment?
Right now, this year?
Yeah.
I mean, Jack Harrison is generally the guy who steps into the mix all the time. I've got his brother actually at youth hockey, and he's the exact same way too. Any time that there's like a moment in the locker room, and like where maybe I walk into the locker room, it's generally Jack.
Awesome. And our last question, just to set it up for the viewers and, you know, get ready for this playoff season, just, you know, one phrase or one moment or one sentence, I should say, that really embodies this team as they go into playoffs, and, you know, just give it to us.
Well, they compete and compete simply. And our biggest thing right now is they compete and we can skate. And if we simplify it, we're going to be really hard to play against.
Awesome. Boys hockey coach Clark Jones on the Rams Revealed podcast, Austin Platt and Dylan Pescatore for episode 13. We thank Coach Jones, and that'll do it.